Why Fallout 2018 is my favorite Mission Impossible movie sequel. Before I give you some bullet points on why Fallout is my favorite Mission Impossible movie sequel, and in great anticipation for Part 8 in May 2025, I first want to say a few things about Mission Impossible 7, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, which used to be called Dead Reckoning Part 1, but that Part 1 title has since been dropped off, and the soon-to-be 8th installment is now called Mission Impossible The Final Reckoning. So far, it looks like The Final Reckoning will be the culmination of everything that we've seen so far in this series, but I do really hope that there still is going to be some years down the line a Part 9 and a Part 10. From here on out, I will refer to the 7th movie from 2023 as just saying Dead Reckoning. Dead Reckoning. In my personal opinion, Dead Reckoning was somewhat of a drop-off in quality from the spectacular Mission Impossible Fallout. I did not care for the Russian submarine prologue opening in Dead Reckoning Part 7, but hopefully that whole scene about that in regards to the plot is explained more thoroughly and understood more thoroughly in the Final Reckoning story plot, which comes out again May 2025. I also did not like that Part 7. I also didn't like that Part 7's whole opening was all the way about 28 minutes before we even get to the opening title sequence. Dead Reckoning was entirely too long altogether at about 2 hours and 40 some minutes. The whole artificial intelligence story raises way more questions than answers, while hopefully all those questions about that story gets resolved satisfactorily in The Final Reckoning. Alright, I just want to make sure I got all my notes from page 1 before I continue on. See, Dead Reckoning, originally called Part 1, is now just called Dead Reckoning, from 2023. While it was a interesting and entertaining movie and fun at some parts, I don't like it as much as Fallout, which we're about to get into. I also really enjoyed Rogue Nation from 2015. So Part 5 Rogue Nation was 2015. Now we're going to be finally getting Part 8, The Final Reckoning, in May of 2025. Yeah, I thought it was a step, ultimately a drop-off of quality from the spectacular Fallout and the culmination, yes. So, looks like I got all the detailed notes from page 1, and here we go. Yeah, I think I got all the main stuff from page 1. Dead Reckoning has way too many characters in it. Yeah, Dead Reckoning has way too many characters in it it has way too many characters in it to fully focus on the story, and the pacing of the time length. The pacing of the time length isn't as smooth as Fallout. One last thing. One last thing. Wait a sec. About. One last thing about. One last thing I. One last thing. Oh, hold on. Oh, and Dead Reckoning is. Wait. I don't know. What, I'm trying to organize all my notes here. Sorry. Excuse me. I'll get to that part if I don't know where exactly yet. One last thing, I think. After the thing about the time length of Not as Smooth as Fallout, one last thing I think I've spoken about. Still speaking about Dead Reckoning Part 7 is the major bike going off a cliff scene. The major bike going off a cliff to get to the train scene isn't as enjoyable to experience anytime after that first time you've first seen that whole scene. The first time it's somewhat engaging, while out anytime after that it doesn't really seem to have the same effect as that very first time. One last thing I think I've spoken about. Yeah, that was the one last thing. Alright, so I think I've spoken about Dead Reckoning, Part 7, enough, Dainu, enough at this point. So I will now go over why Fallout is my favorite Mission Impossible sequel of the franchise so far. At least till we see how the final reckoning is in relation to the whole franchise. While Dead Reckoning had a 28 or 29 minute long opening, Fallout's prologue opening is about 15 or 16 minutes. With Ethan Hunt first having a very bad dream nightmare, then Ethan Hunt getting his mission instructions from a Homer Odyssey book where he's told about the apostles. And then he saves Luther. Which makes the apostles grab the plutonium, which then leads to the first mask reveal by Benji pretending to be Wolf Blitzer. Wolf Blitzer was also in the spy movie Skyfall, 2012. We are introduced to Erica Sloane, who's one of the different bosses of Ethan Hunt. The boss is Ethan Sloane, played by the lovely you know her name. But she's very, very good actress. Who we will get to see return in some capacity in the final reckoning. While I had pacing issues with Dead Reckoning Part 7, Fallout runs smoothly for the most part in its 2 hour and 28 minute runtime. I think that's all the main things on page 2. Yep. Fallout is an accelerating thrill ride where I wasn't bored. There were parts of Dead Reckoning that could have been cut or removed out. And what's with that whole rule that Ethan Hunt's group team can only have one woman in it and not more than one woman in it? Is that like a very specific, for sure rule that you can only have one woman on the team and not 2 or 3? I don't know. We'll see what happens. It was really neat. It was really neat with the jumping off. It was really neat with the jumping off of a plane to get to the club party. That halo jump, that flying out of the plane halo jump scene was done for real. Was really showing no doubt that it was Tom's face actually doing it. And this was practiced to get right over 100 times just to get this absolutely right. Then we have the awesome fight sequence in the bathroom. I guess there's so many movies that have fighting in the bathroom scenes. I won't name them all because I don't know what they all are. But the other two that come to mind real quick is the bathroom fight in True Lies, 1994, and the bathroom fight between two cyborgs in Terminator 3. 2003, Terminator 3, 2003, Rise of the Machines. But there's way more fighting scenes than just these three being mentioned. You know, movies have so much more in other movies, but you know. Then we have the awesome fight sequence. Yes, that awesome fight sequence in the bathroom. I like Henry Cavill's American accent in this movie, as he's not American in real life. So it was a really really well done, well said American voice that he has in his character. Tom drove the bike really well in those Paris road scenes. Now I want to mention. Now I would like to mention Fallout's connection to previous installments of the series, or at least how I saw it as. The White Widow character is found out to be the daughter of Max from the first movie. My friend Avi, my movie co-host friend Avi, got to meet Vanessa Kirby in real life at some point. How cool is that? Good for him. Awesome. Really, 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 really well. Eugene Kittredge, from the very original movie, Mission Impossible, 1991 and 1996. Eugene Kittredge is also back in this since the first movie. And he's also back in... Also will come back in May 2025's The Final Reckoning. Man, it's a good thing I can read most of my handwriting, and even though I made some mess-ups with the words here with all the notes, but this is how I work. This is how I do things. All right, after the Eugene Kittredge part, in the third act, this is really, really, really cool. Also, in the third act, the rock cliff fight scene when Ethan Hunt is climbing up the rock to be able to deal with the whole plutonium, that, at least to me, could be thought of as an indirect reference to the rock climbing in Mission Impossible 2. Because, well, for many people, I can't say all, but a whole lot, Mission Impossible 2 is the weakest movie in the whole entire franchise series. So the fact that he rock climbed in the third act here in Fallout to get the mission completed with the whole plutonium, it kind of is almost an updated but better thing to the whole rock climbing in Part 2, Mission Impossible 2 in 2000. Julia, Ethan Hunt's wife, now ex-wife, from Mission Impossible 3, 2006, is brought back in Fallout's storyline. To give that relationship some form of closure. But in real life, there's not a whole lot of closure with a lot of people that I've met in my life. It is what it is. Sometimes you will never have closure, and that's just how you have to be okay with that. Ghost Protocol, Part 4. Ghost Protocol had a nuclear storyline with that whole Russian stuff in the Kremlin and the whole nuclear thing try to be stopped by Ethan and his team. This is kind of that whole thing with the Ghost Protocol nuclear storyline is kind of similar to Fallout's plutonium being somewhat of a storyline. In that they're both how the weaponization type things that has to get stopped kind of way. Somewhat similar in the nuclear Ghost Protocol with plutonium here in 6 Fallout. Fallout is like a direct sequel to Rogue Nation, bringing back Ilsa Faust and Solomon Lane. Speaking of Solomon Lane, he's even way more cunning, dangerous, and lethal than he was in Rogue Nation. He survives the events of Fallout, and I hope to see him back sometime after Part 6, after Fallout, in some form. But we don't always get what we want, so we'll see which characters come back, which characters don't come back. And that's how, I guess, they wrote it. And this is how I write my script of my own projects here, my scripts. Oh yes. He's even more cunning, dangerous, and lethal than he was in Rogue Nation, and survives the events at the end of Fallout. Benji gets a second mask reveal as well, later past the beginning of the movie into the, I guess you would say, into the end of the second act. End of the second act, beginning of the third act, more or less. The highlight standout scene for me that I still think is very impressive is Ethan Hunt climbing all the way top of a tough rope, all the way up the different rope things, the rope, to eventually manually maneuver the helicopter. I think he actually trained to really do that helicopter, but I can't tell if he's really doing the helicopter or not, but he sure looks convincing doing all those other stunts before the helicopter. Oh yeah, He loves his stunts, and he does a great job at all the stunts. But really enjoyed the whole rope thing to get to the helicopter. The very last scene of Fallout was funny and rewarding. Had this been the last movie of the franchise, it would have been a terrific closing to the series on how Fallout ended ultimately with its whole thing and what it does. While I liked a lot about Dead Reckoning, it was, at least for me, a step down in overall quality from the consistent and fantastic and huge ride that was Fallout. I will be going to see The Final Reckoning at least twice theatrically at AMC Movies, and I hope it's exciting, well done, and hopefully will not be the last installment of the Mission Impossible series. That would really suck if this really is the last one. We'll see what happens. I could easily see Tom playing Ethan Hunt throughout his ages of being in his 80s and in his 80s and his 90s. And I am so ready for Mission Impossible 9 and Mission Impossible 10. I'm really so ready for Mission Impossible 9 and Mission Impossible 10. I plan to review, yes, here we go. I plan to review Part 8 maybe either June or in July, as I will still need time to digest and take on everything that I've experienced and seen in Mission Impossible Final Reckoning in 2 different May viewings of this upcoming movie. I may not have a review until June the earliest, or July, or if I still have to think about it, maybe even past July. Because you want things to come out at just the right possible time, because timing is divine. I will conclude this whole thing by showing you this Dead Reckoning movie poster that I got by another friend that is not Avi, and then, well, I'm going to sing the theme song and then my traditional wrap-up endings. So, thank you from the other friend. I don't know if you all can see this, but it's a really well done Mission Impossible 7 Dead Reckoning poster from 2023, as it originally came out July 12th, 2023. It got destroyed. It got destroyed and finished off by the Barbenheimer, but Haley Atwell from the Marvel movies. Haley Atwell is very hot, very hot and sexy. So we'll see what happens with her character in the Final Reckoning. And I don't really care for the villain of these latter 2 movies, but we'll see how his character is also in Dead Reckoning, and And we'll see how the brotherhood aspect is with Benji and Luther, also with Ethan Hunt. We'll see what happens with all that. But yeah, here is the whole poster. Really, really something else. And with all that said, I'll see you at the movies. Everybody dance! Everybody dance and have a good time. This is Millennial Man Motions Entertainment, LLC, signing out.